Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Slam your door over and over? Kiss your door goodbye. After that, crazy sister said I should sell my car and give her the money. And after that, bring food I'm allergic to? Get kicked out of my party. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets her door taken away. Try to take my door and you'll need a new head, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Slam your door over and over? Kiss your door goodbye. I, 40 female, have 3 kids. Maggie, who's 14, Levi, who's 12, and Charlie, who's 10. Not their real names. Levi and Charlie share a bedroom, and Maggie has her own room as the oldest and also the only girl. Maggie's a great kid. She does her homework, helps with chores without too much complaining, doesn't bug her little brothers too much. The issue is that she will not stop slamming her bedroom door. When she gets up to use the bathroom at night, she slams her bedroom door on her way out and back in. When she gets up in the morning or goes to bed at night, she slams it. Pretty much any time she enters or exits her room, the door gets slammed. And it's only her door, none of the other doors in the house. It shakes the walls and frequently wakes up everyone else in the house. Her brother's room shares a wall with hers, and our bedroom is directly above theirs. We've talked to her about it and asked her very politely to please be more mindful about it because it's disturbing the rest of us, but it's in one ear and out the other. We tried being more forceful about it, saying that if she continues to slam her door, there will start to be consequences. Still, nothing changes. It all came to a head the other night when she got up to use the bathroom, and all 4 of us were woken up by the slamming. I have to be up at 5 a.m. for work, and I've had enough of the broken sleep and came downstairs and knocked on her door. She opened it and said, "What?" With such attitude, it took a lot of self-control not to start yelling. I told her as calmly as I could that if she slammed that door one more time, she was going to come home and find it gone. She proceeded to yell at me to leave her alone and then slammed it 5 times as hard as she could. Well, the next day, Friday, she went to school and my husband and I both had the day off, so we took the door off the frame and installed a curtain rod with a nice heavy curtain over the door instead. She came home and freaked out. She said we're being emotionally mistreating and taking away her right to privacy. She sulked all weekend and won't even talk to us now. My mother says I'm the jerk because I overreacted, but she doesn't have to deal with the house shaking. I want to add that we completely respect each other's privacy in our house, which is why we hung up a heavy curtain and made sure that we couldn't see through it or around it. We even put little Velcro pieces on the wall and curtain sides so that it stays in place. She still has her physical privacy, which she is absolutely entitled to, but can't slam a piece of fabric. We also have never and still don't ever just go into her room unannounced, and we still knock on the wall to ask permission to enter. We've told her we'll happily put her door back on once she agrees to respect the no slamming rule. So, am I the jerk? Edit to add. 1. The curtain is an industrial type that blocks sound and light. 2. The curtain is only meant to be a temporary measure. As soon as she agrees to stop slamming and be respectful of the shared space, we'll put it right back on. And 3. The door isn't broken or malfunctioning in any way, and there is no draft causing it to swing shut. Not the jerk. Interrupting everyone's sleep is unacceptable. You gave her plenty of opportunities to change the door slamming behavior and she didn't do it. Let her sulk it out for a set amount of time. Let her know this amount, 1 week, 3 days, whatever you choose. Then return the door conditionally for a trial. If she can refrain from slamming it, she can keep it. If not, the door gets taken off again for even more time. Rinse and repeat until she no longer slams the door. The slamming it a few times in a row was the point where the door had to go. OP's daughter might not have meant to wake others, but at that point, it was teenage spite. My nephew lost his door for slamming it, and when he got it back, he requested padding to help cushion the door. He actually lost the door when he slammed it shut, and it slammed on his little brother's foot during an argument. I think that made him feel worse than the actual grounding. Not the jerk. That's what I call a checkmate. You're teaching your kid a valuable lesson. Actions have consequences, and she's even able to reverse this decision. If she agrees to not slam, which for some reason she won't agree to it. P.S. The curtain was a great touch. Crazy sister said I should sell my car and give her the money. I'm 48 years old, married but child-free by choice. It's something my wife and I agreed on early in our relationship. We both have pretty good jobs and we're able to afford many expensive items and activities. I attribute this to our jobs, obviously, but also the fact that we're child-free and we live in a one-bedroom apartment. I own a manufacturing plant that was given to me from my father. On that property, I store 4 classic cars that I have bought and restored. I've always been a car guy. I plan to buy another car in the next year too. I have one sister who's younger than me and never made the best decisions in life. She has a boyfriend who she lives with after getting divorced twice. She's also in her early 40s. She has 2 kids who already seem smarter than their mom. She makes an okay living, but she's the breadwinner. Her boyfriend that she lives with spends most of his time smoking and playing Xbox. He's always looking for a new job or blaming the capitalist system for him not having a job. Her daughter, who's 10, is a very good singer. I don't have an ear for talent much, but to me, she's very good. My sister has wanted to enroll her in lessons with a private coach, but she can't afford it. She's asked me to help her out since she's embarrassed to ask our parents. She also does not speak to the father of her daughter. I declined politely until she made a comment about my money and cars. Just another "must be nice" comment that I'm all too sick of hearing. Here's where I made my jerk comment. I said, maybe if your boyfriend can put down that crap that he's on for all of 10 minutes, he can help you out. And I have 5 cars. I'll buy another 5 before I give you a dime. I said her daughter isn't my responsibility. She's got a mother and a father, and if they can't figure it out, it doesn't fall on my shoulders. My sister called my wife and told her how mean I was to her. My wife now wants us to give the money, but I don't want to. Sure, we can afford it, but I'm not my sister's welfare. Last bit. I'm sure some of you will make a comment about how I refer to her daughter or my niece. They live in another state and have for the entirety of her life. I don't see my sister or her kids much at all. I don't really know her kids too well. I send them birthday and Christmas gifts, but I'm not close with them. Edit. This is coming up a lot in the comments. My sister could have had a stake in the business, but she didn't want to work there. I've worked for my dad all my life and learned the business. She never did. She knew she wouldn't be getting anything without it, and she was okay with that. Edit. I have given financial support to her before. Some people here are missing this piece. I declined politely until she made a comment about my money and cars. Just another "must be nice" comment that I'm all too sick of hearing. So it's been years of making snide and passive-aggressive comments by the sister. The same sister that's too ashamed or too chicken, or just maybe has depleted the parents' money train because of her constant begging. Maybe she's made too many snippy comments to the parents too, and they finally had enough. Now, if she'd been nicer all these years, OP probably wouldn't hesitate to help out. OP took on the family business. OP has made it a continued success. OP made personal choices that resulted in having a comfortable life. Nobody's obligated to help raise or fund their siblings' kids. Sister seems to have a habit of making not-so-smart life choices. That's not OP's problem. Could OP have been nicer, less insulting? Sure. But even the most patient people finally have enough, and that's what this sounds like. Not the jerk. You can spend your money any way you want to, but man, the entire attitude in this post rubs me the wrong way. I'm going to refrain from judgment because I feel like there's a lot missing here. Also, seeing in the comments that your parents gave you the factory and your sister nothing probably adds a different family dynamic that you didn't discuss here. You were honest about your perspective, and it sounds like your sister needs to get in touch with honesty and reality about herself and others. If she's been expecting other people to take greater care of herself and her kids than she does, that's unrealistic at best. The articulation may have been frank, but it sounds like she needed it. I say, not the jerk. I like that you're making digs at their choices as far as money when you were handed down your career. Capitalist system really helped you out by inheriting daddy's business, huh? Everyone sucks here, to be honest. OP. I worked for that business. He would have sold it if I didn't work hard for it. So, you're saying that if you didn't work there as a nepotism hire, your father would have sold the company to someone who would have had to pay for it with money instead of being given it for free like you were? Man, I wish my dad could have given me a job and a company to manage. You sound exactly like the same kind of person his sister is. Are you seriously discrediting the years of work OP put into a company, which were helpful enough that their parent decided it was better to let OP take over the company rather than selling it out? What is wrong with you? I don't think that he owes his sister money. OP is insanely privileged though. Most people aren't given a nepotism hire and a free company by their parents. OP might have worked hard, but there are almost certainly people who were working at that place and working just as hard who weren't gifted the keys to the place. I'm going with you're the jerk. I'd like to clarify that this is because of your response to your sister, not whether or not you pay for singing lessons for your niece. You're in a position nearly nobody ends up in, and that's a massive, ludicrous advantage. You might have worked to get it, but plenty of people work harder than you and don't get that kind of opportunity. You've been handed a functioning, profitable business and have reaped the advantages of it. Your sister has not, whether that's by her choice or not. Frankly, making her wait most of her life to get the same benefits you have right now is deeply unfair. All right, let's continue. These people are bonkers. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his sister? Please let us know. I must have been missing something. I didn't see the part where OP was wrong about what he said to his sister. Bring food I'm allergic to? Get kicked out of my party. I recently hosted a party where I made it clear to everyone attending that I'm severely allergic to fish. So if you're going to bring food, don't bring fish. Well, my warning seemed to have fallen on deaf ears as one of the guests brought and cooked fish in my kitchen. When the party started, for the first 40 minutes, I wasn't aware that someone brought and was cooking fish inside of the house because I was outside the whole time. When I went inside to use the bathroom, I noticed the fish smell instantly. I immediately went to the kitchen and told the person cooking the fish to get it out of my house and reminded everyone of my food allergy. A lot of the other people there were already eating some of the fish, so now my whole house was contaminated with fish because people were touching everywhere. The guy gave me some BS excuse. Oh, you told me a month ago about your allergy. You should have reminded people. I then told him that I sent out a text 2 days ago to everyone, reminding them, and he said he didn't get it. Yeah, sure. Anyway, at this point I was panicking because I didn't have my EpiPen in case I got a severe allergic reaction. Also, I ate some of the food that was being cooked in my kitchen. Food contamination with the fish was likely. I kicked everyone out of my party, even though it was still early in the evening, and I had invited them all over to celebrate. A lot of them traveled far, but at this point, I didn't care. Some of the guests got upset, saying I could just get rid of the fish, and they all could wash their hands, and I could just chill outside until the fish smell went away. I told them to buzz off, and that they can all blame David for what he almost did to me. They thought I was overreacting, which I probably was because, again, I was upset. I was yelling at this point. A lot of my friends said that I ruined the party because I overreacted because I didn't have to kick everyone out of the party since they did not bring the fish, and that I treated David too harshly because it was an honest mistake, and they recorded me yelling at him, which I honestly feel guilty about. Was I the jerk here? Not the jerk. You know what else would be ruining the party? You going into anaphylactic shock in front of everybody because you accidentally ate something contaminated with fish. Also, hospital visits are not cheap. Maybe get some new friends who are more considerate. The fact that your allergy is so severe that you've reminded them multiple times, 100% not the jerk. You threw a party and allowed guests the use of your kitchen. You allowed them into your home, and that's how they treated you? Hey, yeah, we know this is your house, but why don't you just wait outside? I'm sorry, but you don't get to tell someone to wait outside their own party, let alone their own home. Drop all of those friends. Am I the jerk for telling my dad he and his wife need to look at themselves for the reason her son is struggling? My dad has me, I'm 16, male, and my brother, 11, male, and our mom passed 8 years ago. Dad met Chantel 6 years ago, and they got married 2 years ago. Her son is 10. My brother and I have known Chantel and her son for about 4 years now. Chantel's son, Kyle, is an only child, has no dad, no extended family, and he latched onto me fiercely when we met. It was frustrating how he had inserted himself into stuff with my brother. He'd invite himself along. He would try to hold on to me, and my dad and Chantel told me to allow it and give him a hug when I'd tell them that it made me uncomfortable and annoyed me. Eventually, I started to stop him and tell him to not do this and don't cling on to me. Dad and Chantel realized the three of us hadn't bonded the way they wanted us to, so they insisted on leaving me with both him and my brother and having me babysit them while they left the house. This was during the day and night. Dad would also set up times where I had to take them to the park. I should also bring up, my brother and I are close, like super close. We lost our mom, all 4 grandparents, and our only uncle. We have aunts, in the same space of 3 years. Losing them made us closer. I was always an affectionate big brother. My mom used to say that. and our relationship is so easy and natural that we hug, or I'll ruffle his hair, or he'll sit on me sometimes if he wants something. None of it is forced, and it just kind of happens. Kyle saw a lot of that during the forced babysitting, the forced park trips, etc., and he never got to hang all over me or be my shadow like he wanted, and I'm not affectionate with him, and it's caused him to have trouble dealing with stuff. Chantel was concerned, and so he went to therapy for that. He admitted to being jealous and that he hates my brother, but he also wants me all to himself. He's still in therapy, but he told Chantel that he's never going to be happy not being my brother. Chantel and Dad blamed it all on me. They said I had a responsibility to Kyle to be a good brother to him, and that it was my job as the oldest to look out for him and make sure I was loving him the same way I love my brother. My dad has brought it up a couple of times on his own, as well as the last time I told him that he and Chantel should look at themselves because they knew Kyle was seriously clingy with me, and they sent him out with me and my brother, knowing we're close and have an affectionate relationship, and did nothing to make sure he'd be okay. He told me I should have put my own feelings aside and done what Kyle needed me to. Chantel was like, "How dare I blame them?" And she called me evil for blaming them when I have destroyed her son. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. And yes, it's your father and stepmother's fault. Kyle should have been told that the two of you are brothers. Plus, you've both suffered the same serious losses in a very short time. That means the two of you have a special bond. Kyle needs to be taught his bond with you will be different because of that, and he cannot force it. Otherwise, that will only drive you further away. And no one should ever be forced to accept affection or clinginess from someone if it makes you uncomfortable. You have the right to pick and choose that kind of stuff. I worry about you, to be blunt. In a few years, you're going to be able to live on your own, and you're going to want to have contact with your brother. I suspect your father and Chantel will forbid your brother from coming to see you unless Kyle can go too. Perhaps if you could persuade your father and stepmother into family therapy, the perspective of a qualified professional might help. Not the jerk. Harsh truth time. He is not your brother. He's the child of the woman your dad married and nothing else to you. There's nothing wrong with that. Feelings cannot and should not be forced. Them forcing him upon you is a sure way to ensure that you will never see him as anything other than an annoyance. Am I the jerk for helping a single dad? Me and my husband took our toddler to the park the other day to enjoy the good weather. We were chilling, enjoying the equipment when I heard crying. Not usual baby crying, like full-on sobbing. Naturally, I looked around to make sure everything was okay when I saw a man with his own toddler having a mini meltdown. I asked my husband to keep an eye on our baby, and I went over to see if I could help. I started talking with the man, and he vented that his kid was being extra defiant and nothing he tried was working. He told me the mother had recently left after deciding motherhood wasn't for her, and he's been having a hard time adjusting. Over the next 30 to 45 minutes, I showed him different techniques and told him about different parent sites I read and support groups. Basically, anything I thought would help. I also gave him my Facebook page in case he wanted to reach out to vent or needed advice. After, he looked very relieved and thankful, so I went on about my day. My husband was quiet when I got back and was acting weird, so I asked what was wrong. He said I abandoned my family for a stranger on our day out. He works a lot, so it's rare all three of us get to be out together. He then told me I was weird for giving the man my Facebook. I told my husband I did as soon as I rejoined him. I didn't think much of it since I didn't really feel comfy giving out my phone number, and I don't use many social sites. I tried telling him I was just trying to be helpful and hoping someone would help him if he was in that situation. But the way he's acting now, I feel like I should have minded my own business. Am I the jerk? Edit. Sorry for not getting back, but I wanted to address some common questions. 1. We were at the park about 3-ish hours total. We were there for a bit. I saw the guy, went to chat, came back to play for another 90 minutes. 2. The guy knew I was with my family. I pointed them out when I walked over. 3. My husband did come over to introduce himself when I waved him to. I expected him to sit and chat, but he didn't. Just said a few pleasantries and left again until he came back to give me our baby so that he could go use the restroom. I didn't think much of it since he's kind of awkward and doesn't know how to handle emotional people, especially strangers. 4. Our family outings are rare, yes, but we still have lots of family time at home. He has 2 days off a week, so actually going out is more dependent on his energy and mood, not his job. 5. I didn't approach the man because I heard a baby crying and wanted to be a hero. I heard him breaking down and simply asked if he needed help. If he would have said no, I would have walked away, but he accepted and we chatted. I'd do the same for a woman as well. Teen parent, grandmother, etc. Not the jerk. You saw a human being struggling and you did a kind thing in helping him and giving him some advice. You didn't give him your phone number and you still had most of the day with your husband. While I understand he was disappointed, you did nothing wrong. The husband didn't do anything wrong either. They rarely have opportunities to do family outings, but OP spent half the outing with another family, excluding him and their kid. Very reasonable to be upset about this, even if OP was helping out a friend rather than a stranger. Husband was probably really looking forward to this outing and felt like he was his wife's lowest priority. It wasn't an emergency. OP did a kind thing. Was it really necessary to spend 45 minutes rather than 10 and a referral to a parent meetup group? Maybe she got caught up in the moment. It doesn't make her a jerk, but her husband has a good reason to be upset, and he isn't one either. No jerks here. Not the jerk. If the guy didn't want your help, he would have told you so, not spoken to you for 30 to 45 minutes. Is your husband typically jealous? These comments make me laugh. Would anyone be happy for their partner to leave them and go talk to someone else for an hour? Not the jerk. Thank you for stepping up for someone in need. Hopefully your husband can let this go and understand that we all need to be kind, even if it disrupts our plans for a little bit. You're the jerk. Why do I have a strong feeling that if the husband was the one who went off to spend 30 minutes with a single mom and OP was the upset wife, you all would be telling her how right she is and how her husband was in the wrong. Just Reddit being Reddit. Edit. Since some of you are assuming I'm a man, I'll clear that up for you. I'm a mother of 3 and I've been happily married for almost 20 years. But I would never ditch my husband during an outing to go talk to some stranger that I don't even know, especially a man. That's called giving the wrong impression, so don't be surprised when he starts sending you pics on Facebook that you didn't ask for. I know the younger generation is really messed up, thanks TikTok, but here's a life hack for you. Before you go doing something that could be taken as disrespectful to your husband, stop and ask yourself, is this how a queen would treat her king? And if the answer is no, you shouldn't be doing it. I've treated my hubby like a king for 19 years, and he in return has treated me like his queen. I don't understand why so many in the young generation want to disrespect your man like this. Then you're surprised when he ends up leaving you. Fortunately, I've raised strong, responsible, yet loving sons who would never let this kind of disrespect fly in their marriage. I really hope you get things figured out. Am I the jerk for turning off my location after my mom complained to my dad about where I was? Before I start, I need to tell you about my living situation. My parents divorced when I was about 3 to 4. The schedule they made was, on Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm with my dad. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm with my mom. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they alternate weekly. My mom uses find friends for everyone in the family. This happened when it was my dad's weekend. My grandma also lives with us. This happened yesterday. My dad had went out of town for a meeting. Me, 18, male, decided to go and hang out with my friends. I told my grandma where I was going, she agreed, and I left. I picked them up and decided to go and walk behind some trails that are behind our school. This was at about 9 p.m. We were hungry, so we stopped to get food before we went. Fast forward to eating in the school parking lot, about 9:30. My mom calls and asks why I'm at the school. I tell her my friends and I are walking on a trail. She then asks if my dad knows that I'm there. I told her my grandma did. She proceeds to say I shouldn't be there, and if dad knew where I was, would he approve? She said this in a condescending tone. I told her, annoyed, it wasn't her weekend to worry about me. She told me if I got arrested that they would call her and hung up. I let it go, not wanting her attitude to ruin the night. About 20 minutes later, while on the trail, my dad texted me asking where I was. I told him at the school and who I was with. This upset me because this means my mom told my dad where I was. After I told him grandma knew, he brushed it off, saying next time to tell him where I'm going. We finished walking the trails and I dropped my friends off and went home, but I was not happy with my mom. I wake up the next morning and decided to stop sharing my location with her. She called me 2 hours later, demanding to know why I turned off my location. I told her since she can't control being a helicopter mom, my location will stay off when I'm at dad's. She didn't like this response and proceeded to yell at me. I told her I will not be talked to like a child, let alone be treated like one, and I hung up. When I told my dad, he said she got goofy last night about it. I was fine with her having my location before, but now I really don't want her to if all she's gonna do is stalk me. I feel like it's fair if I turn it on for her days. Am I wrong about this? Info. Why is an 18-year-old subject to any parental custody sharing or location tracking? Not the jerk. You're an adult and you were just hanging out with friends at a relatively early time. 9:30 at night is early to me. This is the weekend that your dad has you, not your mom, so she really doesn't need to know where you are at that moment. Additionally, you asked your grandmother for permission to go out and she said yes. I feel like as a legal adult, your custody agreement needs to be changed or something. I don't know the laws in your area. Info. I'm confused. If you're an adult, the parenting plan is irrelevant, expired, and whether you allow either parent to see your location is your decision. Just turn it off. She misused it, and there are consequences. Absolutely not the jerk. You're 18. Your mom should not be hovering over you like that. I don't think I'd turn my location back on, even on the days you're with her. Why on earth do people think that because you're 18, you're an adult? Age does not make you an adult. It only defines whether you are a minor or are at the age of majority. At 18, you have the right to drive, sign contracts, own property, vote, get married, and go into the military. You're an adult when you can fully support yourself, pay all of your own bills without help from anyone, including a cell phone, have a good job, and are a contributing member of society. This is the definition of an adult. As long as someone pays your way, you are not an adult. You're the jerk. While under her roof or at your father's, she or he owns the air you breathe. You do not pay the cell phone bill. You are by no means an adult when you are 18. You're not fully cooked. At best, you are medium rare. Hanging out on school property at 9:30 p.m., calling you medium rare is a stretch. You can be cited for trespassing if you are caught. Seriously stupid. Want to go to a top university or get a good job? Not with a misdemeanor on your record. Yes, they do criminal background checks. You'd better turn that feature back on before you find yourself without a phone and possibly grounded. Your mom is not being a helicopter parent, she is being a parent. Get over your entitled self. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mom? Please let us know. Karen demands my upgraded seats for free. She really ends up regretting it. This happened a few years ago, before lockdown, when flying overseas from the US to Europe. My girlfriend and I were taking a trip to visit a few places in Europe for a vacation. This was her first time overseas and the first time she had ever flown on a long-haul flight of more than 3 or 4 hours. In the lead up to the trip, we decided to upgrade our seats from economy to whatever the premium economy variant was for the airline. Seeing as this was my girlfriend's first time on a long flight, I figured it was worth the upgrade for the extra room and perks. In total, we paid around $150 total for both of us to upgrade. We boarded the flight and we got settled in our seats, which were in the last row of the premium economy section on the right side of the plane. There was no noticeable division or indicators between sections other than a small plaque above our row said premium economy or whatever. My girlfriend took the window seat and I sat in the aisle. Entitled mom and her son, who was around 9 to 10 years old, then board and are seated several rows behind us, but in the middle row of the aircraft, 2-4-2 seating. Her son has his nose buried in his switch, as you'd expect a kid of his age to do. They barely get to their seats when entitled mom comes up to our row and stares at us with no greeting. She's standing in the aisle as other passengers are trying to get around her to get to their seats. Entitled mom: "Can you swap seats with my son and I? He likes having a window seat and we don't have one." My girlfriend and I look back at where her son is sitting and then at each other. I try to politely decline her request. Me: "Unfortunately, no ma'am. We paid to upgrade to these seats, so we'd like to keep our assigned seats for this flight." Entitled mom keeps staring at us for a couple seconds. More people are awkwardly trying to shuffle around her as she stands there. Entitled mom: "My son is not a great flyer. He does better when he can sit next to the window." Me: "Sorry, but like I said, we paid more money to sit here in premium economy. We're in the last row, so perhaps there is someone else in the rows behind us who would be willing to swap seats." At this point, a flight attendant noticed that entitled mom is holding up the boarding line and comes over to tell entitled mom to take her seat. She goes back to her row, and my girlfriend and I think that this is the end of that exchange and go back to getting settled. After boarding completes, entitled mom and her son immediately stand up and walk to our row, standing right in front of us with all of their stuff in hand. The kid still has his face buried in a switch. Entitled mom: "Can we swap seats now?" Me: "Ma'am, I already said that we aren't willing to swap seats. As I've said, We paid more so that we can sit here, so we'd like to keep these seats. Awkward infinite pause. Karen, that's really just selfish of you. My son isn't the best flyer and likes to have a window to look out of. It's not that big of a deal for you to take our seats so he can have a window. At this point, I should mention this was an overnight flight, so there isn't going to be anything to look at except darkness for a majority of the flight. Me, I'm not going to argue with you, ma'am. I don't think it's selfish to want to sit in the seats I paid for. I'm sorry you don't have a window seat for your son, but that doesn't mean you're entitled to our seats that we paid an upgrade fee for. Entitled mom continues to stand there silently for a few seconds, as if we'd give in eventually and move if she didn't leave. I'm guessing you don't have kids if you're acting like this. Me, ma'am, I don't know what to say to you at this point. If it was that big of a deal for your son to get a window seat, then you should have done so in advance. Did you try asking anyone else if they were willing to swap seats? Well, no one else back there is traveling together, so they aren't going to want to swap. I turn around and see an older couple in the row behind us, a pair of coworkers in another row that were watching a video on one of their phones while laughing, and a middle-aged woman sitting alone in the aisle seat with the window vacant. Entitled mom then starts to open up the overhead bins to start putting her stuff in there. Me, ma'am, we are not swapping seats with you. I think you're just trying to guilt us into giving up our seats so you can sit in premium economy. If a window seat was really that important, you would have moved on and asked other people behind us once we told you we weren't willing to move. You just want us to give you a free upgrade. Entitled mom becomes furious at this point and continues to call us selfish and how what I said wasn't true. She then starts to bend over and grab my stuff like she's going to evict us from the row. Me, lady, please don't touch any of my stuff and leave us alone. Thankfully, the flight attendant comes up to ask what the problem is. Entitled mom tries to go on a rant that we were denying her kid a window seat and were being selfish and rude to her and her son. After she was done ranting, I explained the actual situation to the flight attendant. Flight attendant, ma'am, they aren't obligated to swap seats with you. They said no, you need to take your seats now. Please go back to your row. Flight attendant escorted them back to their seats as entitled mom huffed and puffed. She then spent the rest of the flight glaring at us from the aisle seat. When the plane finally landed, she rushed to the front of the aircraft ahead of everyone and gave me a solid bump as she passed by me with her bag. Definitely wasn't an accident. Her kid was fine for the whole flight too. Anytime we saw him, he was either asleep or was heads down playing his Switch. I think the only way to deal with people like that is to not argue. They ask for something, just say no. Don't give a reason. Logic won't work with idiots anyway. If they start on about how their kid needs this or that, I just say, this may come as a shock to you, but I don't give a hoot about your kid. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.